Thank you for joining me. This is Tim DeLeo with usingwindowshomeserver.com and the BYOB podcast. In this video, I'm going to show you how to add in new hard drives to your Windows Home Server 2011. Now there are two ways that you can add in hard drives. You can use the Windows Home Server 2011 dashboard, or you can use the remote desktop connection and add them in through the disk management. Let's get started. Once you've inserted a hard drive in Windows Home Server 2011 dashboard, you'll wonder where you actually add in the hard drive. In the informational dialog box under View Alerts, you can see here that it'll have your server name and that it'll have any of the drives that are listed for addition to your Windows Home Server 2011. You can see here that I have two 3 terabyte drives that are ready for adding. Let's try it. Underneath Tasks, it says Format the Hard Disk. Once you click on that, the Format Hard Disk dialog will open. You can see that I have two drives here. I'll choose the first drive and I'll click on Format Disk. Now this disk is a 3 terabyte drive. Any disks that are over 2040 gigabytes or 2 terabytes will be formatted as two separate disks. Let me show you what it looks like. You can see that there's one partition that's 2040 gigabytes, and there's a second partition on the 3 terabyte disk for 754.4 gigabytes. The dashboard does this on purpose to make sure that any specific drive or folder does not exceed 2040 gigabytes. I'll click on Close. You can see in the informational dialog box I have the second drive, which is a Seagate 3 terabyte drive. I'll click on Format the Hard Disk. You'll see the remaining drive is here, and I'll click on Format the Hard Disk. Again, it just takes a couple of minutes for it to format, and then it's complete. Again, it will format it in 2040 gigabytes, and then the remainder. You can see I have I and H, and I'll click on Close. I no longer have the ability to add in drives because I'm out of drives, so now I'll close this viewer and go to my server folders and hard drives. You can see that all of my folders currently are on D because that was the only disk that I had available, but I now have more hard drives. You can see I have the two 2040 gigabyte partitions and the two 754.3 partitions. If at any time now I want to add folders to these drives, I click on Server Folders, and I can now move the folder to a new drive. I'll move my music folder, I'll click on Next, and you can see it'll now give me the ability to move that folder to any of the drives. Now at this point I'm going to click on Cancel because I'm going to show you how to delete the drives and how to start those from the disk management. Now let's take a look on the disk management side. Once you remote into your Windows Home Server 2011, right mouse click on the Windows icon and go to Open Windows Explorer. On the left hand side, right mouse click on Computer and click on Manage. This will now bring up the server management. On the left hand side, you'll see where it says Storage. Single click on the arrow down and left mouse click once on Disk Management. You can see now the graphical interface for all of your disks on Windows Home Server 2011. Now you can see disk 0 is my system disk, which has the 100 megabyte system reserve partition, the 60 gigabytes for the operating system, and the 172 remainder that was left over called Drive D. You can also see underneath that I have disks 1 and disk 2, which were the two 3 terabyte drives that I just added. Now I do not have any data, nor do I have any server folders, so at this point I can make changes without worrying about data loss. To delete these partitions, I right mouse click and click on Delete Volume. I can do it for each volume on each disk. And again, since I did not have any server folders and I did not have any data, I can do this with confidence. So now I have two unallocated fresh disks again for Windows Home Server 2011. In fact, if I go back to my dashboard and I look back at my informational alerts, you can see here that my drives are back added to the dashboard showing. Now again, at this point I could go in and format the hard drives and install them that way. However, that's not what I want to do. I go back to my remote desktop where I'm in my server manager under disk management, and at this point now I can create new simple volumes through the disk management tool. New simple volume, next. This gives us the total size if I wanted to break the partitions out, which I do not at this point, so I'll click on next. I'll assign it the drive letter F. I could change it if I want to, but I'll click next. I'll click next and finish. Now it doesn't take very long for it to format and to go through. So I can start on the next one. I can right mouse click and go to New Simple Volume, click on Next, 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 and Finish. And now I have 2 volumes at 2.794 terabytes, which is after tax number from a 3 terabyte drive. Now these 2 drives now will show up in my server folders and hard drives. You can see now that it's refreshing and I have my 2 new volumes that are ready to go. Now again, I named them by default new volumes, so if you wanted to give them names or delete the names, you could do that also. So now the next question is, what else can we do with drive mirroring? And to do that, all I need to do is choose the 2 drives that I want to use, which are these 2 3 terabyte drives. I can right mouse click and I can delete the volume. Click on yes. So now that I have deleted both sets of partitions, I can go through and I can create a mirror between volumes. So I'm going to create a new mirrored volume. So I'm going to click on disk 1, new mirrored volume. I'll click on next. And it's going to ask me which disks that I want to mirror. So you can see here that I have disk 1 is selected. I have disk 2. Click on add. So here I'm mirroring. I'll click on next. Click on next. Now I'm going to use the stock default format. I'll click on next. And then I'll click on finish. It's going to give me a warning here saying it's changing from basic to dynamic. And I'll click on next. You can see here now that it's giving me the red. The red means that it is a mirrored volume. And it's called drive F. Now if I go back to my dashboard, my drive F is here, 2.794 terabytes or 2,794.4 gigabytes. But this mirrored drive F is a combination of those 2 drives. Again, I took my 2 3 terabyte drives and I mirrored them. This means that when the system writes to one disk, it will write to both disks, and I have redundancy now. So there you have it. We have 2 ways to add drives. You can either add them through the dashboard or through the disk management in the remote desktop. If you choose to use disk management, you can either add them as simple drives exceeding the 2040 gigabyte limit, or you can add drives as mirrors and set up your own duplication.